Kane was the first clone of Peter Parker. He was defective. So, Miles Warren, the Jackal, created Ben Reilly. You see, Miles Warren always hated Peter Parker. Even before he knew Peter was Spider-Man. The person Miles liked was Gwen. He was quite fond of her. Still, hundreds of clones later, he will admit that each one is better than the last. This Gwen watches Kane and Otto slowly wake up from their unconsciousness. They are both tied down with metal chains, so she feels safe for the most part. She is the first thing Kane sees. His stomach drops. "I remember you," Gwen tells him. "You were there when I was born. We were happy when you escaped, Kane. We really were. I'm so sorry that this is happening to you now. To both of you." "Oh, for pity's sake!" Otto jerks from left to right in an attempt to loosen up the chains. "Please, spare me this triacle. At least an actual woman would have the sense to know when to flirt. And as for you, Kane, I suggest you stop muling about the day you slid out of a tube and pay some mind to the day you're going to die, which could well be today." The Jackal walks into the room, closely followed by Carrion and the clone of Miles Warren. "Boys, don't argue. It makes Daddy cross. Except when it doesn't. Oh, but I guess I can forgive you. After all, you've both had such a long day. And you can stop straining against those shackles, by the way. I know you down to the atom, Peter. And these are calibrated far beyond your strength level. You can't escape. Neither of you can. And why would you even want to? We're all family here, aren't we?" Kane grits his teeth. "No, we're not. When I get free, I promise I am going to kill you." In here I thought Peter's sense of humor had been bred out of you. Otto snaps. "What's your endgame, Jackal?" "My endgame, Peter? Whatever could you mean by that?" "Don't insult me. You've never been more than a minor annoyance. But all this layer, these new creatures of yours, it feels bigger than your usual obsessions. What is it that you want?" "What do I want? I want your soul, Peter. I want every chromosome of it. I want to put a little piece of you in each and everything that I allow to live. That is what I want." "You plan to harvest my DNA?" "No! Unacceptable! My DNA is mine, and mine alone. I will not be copied." "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Peter. You know modifications will be made. Perhaps I'll do a run of you with the extra arms. Or maybe I won't, if you feel that strongly about it. But your DNA is still the key, Peter. It always has been. And I need a fresh sample from the source to make sure my next batch goes the right way. After all, we all know what happens when a clone goes wrong. Don't we, Kane? They disappoint you. And disappointments aren't good for anything but the trash heap. We can't all be Ben Reilly, eh? He really was the perfect specimen. But that's science. Chasing perfection. For example, take mutant-powered spider clones. With them around, who needs regular people? Send in the clones! Let them inherit the earth! Well, the good ones. Oh, imagine reality TV then! Otto tells the Jackal, "You're not a scientist. You're a madman. Moreover, you're pathetic. Through what I can only assume was extraordinary fortune, you've managed to incapacitate me. And yet, instead of using this time to further your plans, you waste it prattling on about nonsense. And that is why you will fail. As soon as you try to." The Jackal pauses. "As soon as I try? Peter, really? I'm not a Bond villain. I've done it already." "You? What?" 27 vials of blood. A little bone marrow, some saliva, hair and nail clippings. Oh, and a few other samples, in case I decide to try something a little more old-fashioned one day. You know, for fun. The Jackal looks behind him as he hears Kane attempting to break himself free. "Will you knock it off already, Kane? Those chains were created specifically to hold..." Whoops. Kane uses his anger to fuel him and breaks himself free. "Jackal," he huffs, "I may not deserve to live, but God knows you deserve to die." Kane runs in to attack the Jackal, but is shot down by Carrion. The Jackal laughs. "See? Now that's just not very creative at all, Kane. How many ways can you find to disappoint me? I think I may have just made up my mind to dissect you before I dump you back in the pile." Jackal turns to his converging spider creatures. "Do you hear that, boys? Leave Daddy enough to cut into." The electric spider creature is the first to strike, and Kane reacts just in time to counter the creature's attack with a left hook. The teleporter appears behind Kane. He turns on his heel and punches the creature in the stomach before stabbing it with his pincer that pops out his wrist. The third creature prepares his optic blast, but Kane sweep kicks it across the face, sending the beam off course. He then jumps on the back of the creature and directs the beam at the chains holding Otto down. Otto cheers as he breaks his bindings. "I'll see you in a moment, Jackal. But first, I'm putting down your little pets." He jumps in to back up Kane. Jackal, growing worried, sinks behind the others on his side for cover. "What are you waiting for, Carrion? Kill someone." Carrion steps forward and raises his arms. Clouds of poisonous gas surround Kane. He tries to distance himself, but Carrion just steps closer. "Kane, let me in," he hisses. Kane roars out in pain. He can feel Carrion trying to get inside his head. But that's bad news for Carrion, because Kane already has a monster in there, and it doesn't take too kindly to being attacked. Inside Kane's mind, Carrion is face to face with the other. It gnashes its teeth and claws at Carrion, leaving him distracted. Kane, being separate from the other, is able to take advantage of this and knock out Carrion before he can do any more damage. Miles sees this and shoots Kane in the back. Otto follows this up by punching Miles across the room. "And now for you," Otto says as he turns to the clone of Gwen Stacy. "No," she gasps. "You wouldn't." "You have no idea what I would do." Gwen's eyes widen, and she draws 2 pistols from the holsters on her back. She fires them both, but Otto dodges and hits the weapons out of her hands. "Did you truly expect to fail me with such a pedestrian effort?" Otto pops out his claws and goes in for the kill. Kane catches his hand in mid-air and tells him to stop. "She doesn't deserve that. It isn't her fault. She's an abomination, a worthless mockery of humanity, just like all clones." Otto swings away to the other side of the lab, leaving Kane with his thoughts. Maybe he's right, Kane thinks. Maybe clones are abominations. Guess I'll make sure the Jackal can't make any more. Kane jumps back into the fight and begins to savagely beat on the spider creatures. Otto just watches. This has become a mess. He cannot even express how much he hates clones. There is no one worth saving here. Murderers, villains, genetic experiments. Ideally, Otto would simply leave and let them all kill each other. But he refuses to allow the Jackal to retain his genetic material. It must be destroyed. And the Jackal has unwittingly provided him with an easy way to do so. Otto looks across the lab and sees a hydrogen tank. He rips off the wheel and launches it back at the tank, causing it to ignite. One small explosion causes another, and one by one, the machinery, the refrigeration chambers, and the stasis tubes all ignite into flames. Spider-Man chuckles under his breath as he web swings away. The Jackal, who was helping his creatures fight Kane, looks back and cries out, "What? No! My DNA! My babies! I have to save them!" he says as he pushes Kane aside. The explosion caught Kane off guard as well. It was not what he was expecting from Peter, but he knows this must all be part of one of Peter's plans. Kane's plan, however, is still the same. So, if the Jackal wants to die by fire instead, the hell with it. Let him cook. Either way, Kane has no plans to die today. But that's when he sees the clone of Gwen Stacy. She just sits there in the middle of the flames with her head down. "Hey, you have to get out," Kane tells her. "No," she whispers. He reaches out a hand. "Look, just grab my hand. I'll get you out of here. I promise, take my hand." Gwen looks up at Kane, and a single tear rolls down her cheek. "I'm sorry," she says as she is covered by the roaring flames. The chemical factory is brought crumbling to the ground. Otto stands on a nearby building top and admires his work. Honestly, it's incredible what one simple, well-placed action can bring about. One piece of detritus cast into the proper direction has effectively disposed of the DNA the Jackal was foolish enough to steal from him. The Jackal himself, his contemptible experiments, and, as a bonus, Kane. To Otto's surprise, Kane swings out of the collapsing building just in time and lands right next to him. "What the fuck was that?" he asks. "I took the most efficient path. The villain and his experiments are destroyed. His equipment is useless to those who would salvage it. And best of all, we won't have to deal with any more ludicrous clones." Kane punches Otto in the face, causing him to fall to the ground. "You could have killed me." A calculated risk. "I know what I did to you, but what the hell is the matter with you?" "The matter with me? You think that pretending to be a hero changes anything between us after what you did?" "I'm no hero. I know what I am now. But you are a hero. So act like it." Hey guys, so if you made it to this part of the video, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. Superior Spider-Man is by far my favorite story of all time. So yeah, thanks for letting me share this with you. But remember, we have our DCTV weekly recaps every Wednesday around 1 p.m. Pacific time. And after that, the episodes will be uploaded separately on our second channel, the OverLook Media. 3 words. So yeah, if you guys want to talk about TV, movies, or anything like that with us, go check out that channel. Until then, I hope everyone has a great rest of the night.